Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Oh, what's going on, everybody? Dusty with you. Huss will be joining us from Winnipeg Sports Talk shortly. We were both on the Oilers in Game 2. It backfired. We'll continue to get you set. Game 3 is not until Thursday, but we've got CFL Week 2, we got U.S. Open, we got some Blue Jays. We obviously got a lot to break down from the game last night as well. If you were watching over on YouTube, hammer the thumbs up for us. That would be great. Push our Lock Shop content out to many more people. As always, the Lock Shop is presented to you by our great partners over at Coolbet. If you've not yet signed up for an account at Coolbet, please use the code LOCKSHOP when you do, and you will get a 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit up to 200 smackaroos. Once again, that code is LOCKSHOP at coolbet.com. If you're listening on TuneIn or iHeart or at edmontonsportstalk.com, you can text us anytime if you got some plays tonight that you want to pass along or you have any questions or opinions. We'd have two guys and a goalie coming up today with myself and Gager. That'll be rolling at noon today. We'll give you a chance to get in the mix for the $100,000 hole-in-one with Golf Town. That's coming up on the Lock Shop today as well. But let's bring in Huss from Winnipeg Sports Talk. If you've not checked out WST yet, find Winnipeg Sports Talk on YouTube. Just give them a search and give them a sub. Huss, what's going on, buddy? How you doing, man?
Well, I'm doing well. I'm a little disappointed at the result of last night's game, but I imagine that pales in comparison to the majority of the nasties out there. Yeah, that was one that was right there for the taking for the most of it. But holy smokes, I mean, you guys must have probably talked about that game the entire show this morning. I mean, there is so much to get to out of last night. I mean, I don't even know where to start other than it was a much better Florida team as we expected. I mean, a big pushback from the Panthers. And I thought the Oilers did a pretty good job of hanging in there. I said to the guys I was watching the game with, just early in the third period, this feels like next goal wins. And I mean, listen, I know Bouchard played 30 minutes and had to do a lot more with Nurse being out. That pizza that he served up was fully loaded, and it ended up in the back of the net. And unfortunately, when you have two great teams playing with such little open ice and true grade A scoring chances, it often is something self-inflicted that ends up being the difference in the game. And I mean, I can't say that if that play doesn't happen, the Oilers win, but I mean, I think it goes 1-1 for a while, and I think it's basically a coin flip at that time. I mean, you're on the road in a 1-1 game at that point against a team like Florida. It had a few good chances, but I think particularly in the third period, they really buckled down. But Florida might be the best team in the league playing with the lead. And it's all about not letting them play with the lead. And, I thought the Oilers did well early on to get up 1-0. Obviously, they gave up the tying goal, but that unfortunate play by Bouchard, which I think was just a bit of like, I honestly think that's where fatigue really comes in.
Like almost a mental fatigue situation there for him, right? Like totally. He gets the puck on his stick. He saw one white jersey, didn't think about who else was going to pop in there and just sort of flubbed it ahead. And sure enough, picked right off. That's a good point. I think you make a good point. Bouchard's been so good in these playoffs so far, but that one given away, and then he missed Lindell along the boards that got flipped over for the power play goal. So yeah, I could see fatigue creeping in there on Evan Bouchard. But I mean, you're right. I mean, we did have Curly Gittins Jr. on today from the Elks to talk a little. Eric and I were talking CFL fantasy because Eric has him in his Canadian spot in a CFL fantasy league. So we chatted with him a little about CFL fantasy, but outside of like 10 minutes with Gittins today, we spent 2 hours and 50 minutes obviously on the game last night. And you know what? We were talking today about like what hurts the most. We got a segment on the show called That Hurts, and what hurts the most coming home from these two. And I mean, there's a couple good points here. I pointed out that the fact that they played so well in game one, and that was like the game there to get the split, and they didn't get it. Like, you played well enough in that game. Should have been coming home with the split. That one hurt big time. And then the fact that they do not have a goal. Like, they only have one goal in 2 games, and they do not have a goal from a forward yet. And last night, only 3 forwards had shots on goal. McDavid had 3. Draisaitl had 2. Hyman had 1. Nobody else in that whole forward group had a shot on goal last night for the Edmonton Oilers. And to me, like we always expect, the Oilers are going to score goals. The Oilers are going to score goals. Well, they haven't yet so far. Maybe that's a good sign. They hit 3 posts last night on the power play. So maybe the goals are going to come, and we should expect that. But I think that's what I'd be concerned about, Huss.
Well, you're exactly right, man. And listen, I mean, I could absolutely see them breaking through in game 3 in Bedlam and Northern Alberta and, getting a win to get it to 2-1. But the game, they just simply need to generate more if they're going to win 4 games in this series. I mean, McDavid is incredible. He's doing so much. He's dangerous every single time he has the puck on the ice. But to Florida's credit, they continue to make him either go through 3 guys or eventually take it to the perimeter and then get it around. And once the Florida Panthers are there with the way Bob is playing, like it would be a little different if they got a shot or two through at some point at this season and got a stick on it and maybe pop one in. But the Florida Panthers are absolutely comfortable playing that style right now. And, listen, McDavid is the most dangerous when he is at full speed. When all of a sudden it's juking and jiving around the offensive zone within 4 feet of the boards, Panthers will take that all day. But listen, I mean, we can talk about McDavid. He's going to get his. He'll continue to create chances, and I would be stunned if there isn't some sort of offensive production from him. But let's be real here. When the Oilers have been their best, it's actually been when McDavid hasn't had to play 27 minutes a night.
Yeah, when he's playing 18, 19 minutes. In other series in the playoffs, that was the case, Huss.
Well, absolutely. And part of that was they were getting more from the other players on the team. And we've talked a lot about the depth of Florida and, what they're able to do rolling line 1 through line 4 with the style of play that they bring. It just hasn't seemed to be happening with, the rest of the Oilers. And Draisaitl's lines had a couple chances, but for the most part, it's really been quiet. It's been a game that's been, played on the boards, in the neutral zone, back and forth, but Bob wasn't tested enough. And for them to get through a Panther defense and a goalie that's playing really well, they're definitely going to have to generate a lot more. I will say this. That game got to the level of nasty I think we're familiar with from the Panthers. And listen, the Oilers brought some of theirs as well. Like, what was the conversation like about the Draisaitl hit on Barkov?
Yeah.
And what will be coming out of it?
Well, we can definitely call this a Oilers homer take if you want. I thought they got the call right. Like there was some people who were like, how's that even a penalty with what Bennett's been doing in the series? It was a penalty. It was 2 minutes. I would be surprised if he's suspended simply because he wasn't like this. He was in like this as he went through and hit. And this definitely got Barkov in the head, but I don't think he was full blown, like he didn't chicken wing him, right? He hit him, but he hit him like this. So I would be actually pretty surprised that there's a suspension, especially since Maurice said today that Barkov, it's not worse than it was before. They'll see what happens tomorrow. If he takes any sort of step in the right direction tomorrow, they're probably in pretty good shape. So I just don't see it happening.
I was fully expecting Maurice playing for the moment and all of the drama and looking for any edge would say, we're not sure if he's going to travel with the team. Doubtful. And then have Barkov come back in game 4 and be this miracle guy. Like, listen, if that's in the regular season, he's getting a couple of games for sure. Elbow to the head, and he did leave his feet too, which does not help his case. I kind of liken it to the elbow version of Bennett's
punch
play on Marchand.
Yeah, which got nothing, right?
So quick. It was so quick, and it didn't look like he was really intending on doing that, to be honest, with the way that the play went. Like, I didn't think that Draisaitl was going out headhunting Barkov and trying to take him out. It's just that that's what happened. Now, I will say this. I don't think they're going to suspend him. I think with the Oilers down 2-0, I don't think the NHL has the stones to do it. And I think that they would love for this series to go a little longer, whether that's fair or not in the big picture of things. I mean, you can make your own decision. No one's going to be happy one way or the other with this decision. If he gets suspended, it's a killer for Edmonton, and everyone on the Oilers side is outraged. And if they give him the old $5,000 fine, everyone on the Florida side is saying this is a joke. So there's no winning for player safety on this. It's about being consistent, and I think they have sort of let things go. Although it's still, not to digress, but when you see things like this happen, it still blows my mind that the NHL suspended Mark Scheifele for 4 playoff games for that hit on Jake Evans.
I mean, that was pretty vicious, though. I mean,
listen,
that was high speed, right?
Games?
That force. You know what? Looking back on it now, four playoff games is. I mean, that's now. How many didn't he serve some the following year though? Right? Like how many games?
Because they got swept.
They got swept. Yeah.
Yeah, they only had 3 more games after that. That was in game 1. Oh god,
that was pretty high. That was pretty high speed though. That was pretty high speed play. I mean,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, listen,
that was something else. That Scheifele play was something else. Right?
Oh my god. I mean, it was bad, but it just seems like they never do anything in the playoffs. They always err on the side of caution, except for that one time. And I think they kind of thought that Winnipeg would be able to handle that and make it through, and then they crumpled in it. But the Draisaitl hit was very controversial. The other thing that I have to bring up, and I'm sure there's been some angry people, but again, no skin in the game, not an Oiler fan. I feel dirty cheering for them to win right now.
I like talking to you about this series on this show because like all we do around here, it's everybody's so close to it, right? So where are you going next? What's next?
I was absolutely incensed by Ekblad with the reverse naked choke on Evan Bouchard.
And Bouchard's tapping.
I couldn't believe that. And if you look at what happened beforehand, like some guys are mixing it up. He just comes in behind him, throws the arm around his neck, and starts squeezing the life out of the guy. Like, I mean, I realized there was a lot of other things going on. The visual of that was brutal for the National Hockey League. Like not even 2 minutes on it either. I would imagine that there'll be a little memo going to both teams and both coaches that like, hey guys,
no more chokeholds.
yeah. This is not the UFC. I mean, you cannot do a rear naked choke on a guy and cut off his ability to breathe. But man, the Panthers are that team. I mean, they will do. They will take anything they can get and then some. And the Oilers are going to have to push through it. I mean, first things first, they got to focus on scoring goals and winning a hockey game on Saturday night. And listen, it's not going to be easy. Or Thursday night, I guess I should say. Or Thursday, then Saturday. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to take every single guy in that lineup to step up and be better. In particular, some of the guys that we barely mentioned their name last night because they weren't really that impactful on the game. McDavid's going to get you some, and he will do everything in his power to create, but hockey is a great team game. And even if you have a Connor McDavid playing at the height of his powers against a team that is deeper and playing almost a perfect defensive game against him, other guys have to step up and make things happen. And here's the difference, if you want to ask me. The thing about it's not like Florida's been way better than Edmonton. Far from it. They are so bloody opportunistic on the chances that they get. Like you saw what Rodriguez did with the turnover from Bouchard. I mean, go back to game 1. All Edmonton, boom. One player
back of the net.
Gets 3 feet on another guy. They bring it down for a 3-on-2 and convert. 1 second, CC and a couple guys get sort of complacent, looking around. Bennett puts it out to Rodriguez. It's in the net. Like, the Oilers need to make something out of some of their lesser chances, to be honest, or make them better and find a way to get through to Bob. I really thought that by getting that first goal, beautiful play by Ekholm, by the way, that they were sort of set to do that. Obviously, Florida tied it up. And then once you got into the third period, it almost felt like overtime. And unfortunately, going back to that Bouchard play, that was a little too big of a hill to overcome. But it was nasty. There was a lot of controversy on both sides. I will say this. I thought the Oilers got jobbed a little bit on that 5-minute major.
On the Fogle. Like, I saw like the Bennett knee, the Fogle knee. The only difference there was like Louis Turinainen stayed down. I mean, I thought they were both very similar, sort of. Oh, I might miss him.
Just the Bennett's was lower. Like, it wasn't really that close to the knee. It was the exact same thing. You're taking a guy out by his leg.
Yeah.
But where it stood, I mean,
I thought it could have been. I thought the Fogle thing should have been 2. I mean, I thought it was more of like almost a trip than a knee for 5-minute major in a game. Like, the Oilers basically played that game because Nurse was hurt. Nurse played 4 minutes, Fogle played less than 2. So they played the entire game with 11 forwards and 5D, essentially.
Yeah.
Right? So that adds to the fatigue level that you were talking about with Bouchard having to play 30 bloody minutes.
Any word on Nurse? Like, what his
I haven't seen anything on Nurse. I haven't seen anything on Nurse today. Just heard the one thing from Barkov about Barkov, and that was it. So we'll see how that plays out.
We know what happened to Nurse. Like, was it a?
It looked like a hip, right? It looked like he got hit sort of right on his hip, because as soon as after the hit, and the hit was kind of towards the hip, and then he was reaching for his hip right after. So looked like he couldn't do anything with that left side as far as getting a stride out. So I don't know. I don't know if you can do treatment on that in the next 2 days and then slide him back in there or not. But yeah, that was so that that's factoring in here now. And the other thing is, Vander Kane's been dealing with this sports hernia for pretty much the entire season. And it's gotten to the point now where I don't even know if you should dress him, Huss. Because, they played him like 10 minutes last night. He was -3. He can't, if Vander Kane to be effective, he has to be physical. And he can do a little bit of the after whistle stuff, like get in your face. But Corey Perry could do that if you need to. And Kane physically, I'm giving it like all the credit in the world here, dude, for trying to push through this. But to me, he's hurting the team right now as opposed to minimally helping them, even though he's injured, So,
I listen, I have to agree with you. And you can see, like, he'll go out for a shift. He'll come back and he'll sit on the bench. And then a little while later on, or sometimes if you just pan by the bench, he's standing.
He's just standing, yeah.
Like, I don't know whether he just cannot get comfortable or into a spot where he's pain free, but you're right. He's not in the place that he needs to be right now. And I mean, so who was out last night? Perry was out.
Derek Ryan. Derek Ryan was out. I would think they probably put Derek Ryan back in. And if you're going to take Kane out, you could put Perry in. Same type of style of player that you want. Provide some grease and try to play physically. I would assume they try to get Derek Ryan into the lineup here at some point. I mean, you could take anybody out. McLeod does nothing. Fogle has done nothing for pretty much the entire playoffs.
Sam Gagner coming back in to be the playoff hero.
Would that not be something? Incredible? That's a book. Like, you write a book about that. What? If Sam Gagner gets into the lineup and they come back and win a Stanley Cup, and it's weird. Like, he was, dude, I had people calling for it this morning and last night in the postgame. Like, insert Papa Oiler. It's time. It is just like, I just don't know if that's going to save the day here for this team. Just to follow quickly on the Ekblad Bouchard thing. Eric came, I'm not going to take credit for it. Eric came up with it today with the way that, like, the series is gone, and maybe you can suck officials on some few calls. When Ekblad was choking Bouchard, he should have fake passed out. Just gone limp.
I thought that too.
Yeah, did you think that? Yeah, and just go limp. Ekblad's going to let you down, lay there for a bit, twitch a second, and then come to. They're going to suspend Ekblad for choking somebody else on the ice. 100%. He would have to get suspended.
You know what? Matthew Tkachuk would do that.
Matthew Tkachuk would totally fake passing out in that situation. 100%. I'll give Tkachuk credit. He would do that.
It's tough to think. It's tough to be that devious in real time. Tkachuk absolutely would do it. And man, what if, okay, what's the takeaway from the McDavid Tkachuk business? Where, I mean, I joked that someone needs to check Tkachuk for whiplash with the way that he snapped his neck back.
I wanted to see another angle on that because you're right. It looked like McDavid clocked him. Right? He's like, ugh.
Look, again, I mean, he was trying so hard to draw him into a penalty. And like there's two sides to it. You like McDavid standing up for himself and saying F you to, and doing that. But at the same time, I think literally if anybody else on the Oilers did that, they're going to the box for 2 minutes. Like I
could see that. You're right.
Benefit of the doubt last night because of all the shit that he takes, and they know that it's Matthew Tkachuk. But I'm telling you right now, if that was Zach Hyman or Nuge or Leon or anyone, that little rabbit punch, along with the incredible performance by Tkachuk, is probably leading to 2 minutes in the 2 minutes in the box. And here's the thing: I think Stuart Skinner's been real good. Like,
dude, I mean, you're in Winnipeg, you get it. Maybe it's worse here at Edmonton. I don't know, but you go back and watch our show this morning because I melt down for about 10 minutes around 8:20 when people are texting in and being like, we got to talk about Skinner. I'm like, what do you mean you have to talk about Skinner? The team has scored 1 goal so far in the series. Like, their forwards don't have a goal. In no way is Stuart Skinner responsible for this team being down 2-0. In no way. Like, I'm glad you said that, Huss, because I think Skinner's been fine in this series so far. He's definitely played well enough for them to win hockey games, in my opinion.
The Oilers have 1 goal in 2 games. That hasn't happened since February of 22.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about like 28 months since they've gone through a little bit of drought like this. Now, again, Florida gets a lot of credit for what they're doing. This is the Cup final. Nothing's easy. And I loved what McDavid had to say afterwards.
I thought that was great. I thought he did a really good availability.
You know what? I mean, listen, he's not going out there guaranteeing anything, but he does bring up a great point. This team, the fact we're talking about the Oilers in the Cup final, thinking where we were,
I know.
My conversations with you at the beginning of November, anyone would have taken that. And again, they still have not lost on home ice. I mean, they say that the series isn't over until you, or you're not really down until you lose on home ice.
Yeah.
They got to get them both here. I mean, going back 3-1 to Florida, I think would be a death sentence with 2 more games. But, I mean, a day to travel, a day to rest up, get ready to go, and we'll see what they got. I would imagine that even with the disappointment of the way things went last night in the 2-0 deficit, the scene in oil country for game number 3.
Oh, it's going to be insane.
Absolutely nuts. I'm looking at it right now. Oilers -130 favorites. Panthers +111.
That's kind of the numbers that we saw for Florida at home in the series, weren't they? I'm trying to think back.
The first game was like -140, and the Oilers were like +119.
Yeah.
And what was wild yesterday, I mean, we started the lock shop yesterday, and the number was +115. It went down throughout the day. I was checking shortly before game time, and the Oilers down to +106. So there was certainly a lot of people on it. Now, I will not be doubling down again, but if you do have faith that this team's going to win a couple at home, make it a best of 3, and use that momentum to win the Stanley Cup, +350 on Edmonton right now, and -455. The under 5.5 games, though, this is not good for Edmonton. Under 5.5 games, -111. So that would either be a sweep or Panthers in 5 right now. Over 5.5 for this to get to 6 is -120. So something interesting to chew on right now. And again, this is all going to come down to these home games for Edmonton. If you ask me, it's nuts. Oh, and by the way, I mean, I know I was sort of singling out Ekblad for being a dirty POS for the rear naked choke.
Yeah.
Was it Carrick that
stick to the balls?
Oh man,
I like on the classic like he no looks it. he kind of like no looks it to be like, oh, I mean, nobody's gonna see me if I look the other way while I stick this guy in the nuts.
Only the cup final with like 40 cameras in the building on the ice.
It's getting nasty. It's getting nasty. I don't know where it goes from here. I don't know if it calms back down. I could see if the Oilers come out and start hot in Game 3 and get a couple of goals and get Game 3 under control, I could see things getting a little carried away as well. I could see Tkachuk and Bennett knowing that they're up 2-1 at that point and kind of being like, let's stink this up a little bit. So I still believe there is a Sam Bennett suspension coming at some point in this series. It's just a matter of if it'll happen before the series is over or not, I guess. So he runs around, doesn't he? Holy smokes. He's a bit of a throwback.
He sure is. He's got his yellow card for what happened with Marchand. So
good point.
I mean, and just while you mentioned Sam Bennett, I just want to pull up the Panthers here on the soon-to-be dearly departed website, Cap Friendly.
I was going to bring that up today. I was definitely going to talk about it in two guys, but we can get into it too.
Okay, well, let's talk about that in a minute. Yeah. But so look at all the guys that are. So they've got one more year with Bennett at 4.4. These are the Anton Lundell's still young, so he's an RFA. Cousins, Lomberg, Lorentz, Okposo, Sam Reinhart, Kevin Stenlund, Tarasenko, all UFAs. Montour, Kulikov, Ekman Larson, all UFAs on the blue line. I mean, this really is the moment.
This Florida. Is it, right? Yeah.
This is absolutely the moment for Florida. And then when I look at Edmonton, you've got a little bit more term. Only one more year on the Draisaitl deal and 2 more years on the Connor deal.
Oh yeah, buddy. Like you can imagine what this offseason is going to be like, right? In Edmonton with the Draisaitl deal looming. It's already been that. I mean, we've been talking about this for 3 years. It finally be upon us. Yeah. So
it's not fun.
Yeah.
It's not a fun conversation. The possibility of what happens. All I'll say to this is that he's going to, I assume they'll engage him right at the beginning of July. He's got Connor here for another couple of years, and those guys I think are really somewhat going to work in tandem, you would think. I don't know what his raise is going to be, though.
Well, it's going to be above.
He's done on that contract.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be above McDavid's 12.5. It's going to have to be in the 13 to 14-ish range. I mean, he's won everything you can win from a personal perspective. I mean, both those guys are going to possibly come in at like 30 mil. Right now they're at 20. So I don't know. Some people around here have speculated, would Draisaitl sign a 1-year deal and then he and McDavid become UFAs at the same time? Because I look at it and say, if Draisaitl inks a long-term deal, McDavid's not going anywhere. Like if they get Draisaitl signed long-term, that's got to be a good sign that McDavid's sticking around long-term too. And I still go back to when they took McDavid's agent and made him the president of the organization. Like that was the moment when I was like, oh, he's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. Like the guy who's controlled his career is now controlling the organization he plays for. Essentially, Connor calls shots. I mean, he's got a significant say in everything that would happen here. So I just don't think you're going to get a better situation for those two guys if they want to stay together. Well, I know they're not. It's going to be impossible. So I don't know. I think they both end up staying, but we can tell that because of Cap Friendly. Do we know how much the Capitals paid for Cap Friendly, Huss?
No, I
wonder.
There's a lot we don't know.
I wonder how much.
There's a lot we don't know. And why exactly did they feel the need to buy it? What are they going to do with it other than just shield the information from the rest of the NHL? But the craziest part about it is how is this a National Hockey League? How do teams in the NHL rely on some guy's website
I know.
for all this information?
I sort of just imagined all the NHL teams would have a system just like this on their own anyway. right? Like I just can't imagine prior to the deadline, Ken Holland looking at like Bill Scott and being like, better go look what our situation's like on Cap Friendly. Like I can't imagine that being how it works.
Well, and it's like, and this comes from the top. I mean, Bettman on a number of occasions has said, erroneously, in my opinion, that, average fan doesn't care about the contracts or anything like that. That's just all stuff for the media and, real numbers people to get in. I mean, Gary, every single decision management makes in today's National Hockey League comes back to the salary cap.
Yeah,
the hard salary cap. You can't begin to even consider moving a player, getting a player in without thinking about what does to your cap. So, I mean, the information has to be available. And, Jay Fresh threw out today, the fact that the NHL doesn't provide full contact details to all teams is just ridiculous. I get they don't want to put a public site out there, but come on. And then Peer Analytics, who does baseball systems he's the developer of baseball systems for the Boston Red Sox, says MLB does it for us. It's just internal. Genuinely mind-blowing that it seems like the NHL does it. So, and I mean, I think Elliott said today, teams that have something when Cap Friendly goes offline. So basically something like they already have this. Seattle, Jersey, Carolina, Chicago, Islanders, Toronto, Columbus, and Pittsburgh didn't have anything before, but once Dubas got there, they started building something. Now, I mean, all this information is there. I mean, I don't know what is preventing teams from going in and literally stripping everything from Cap Friendly right now as to today's day and then adding and working on it forward. But it does seem so archaic. And you think about that guy who originally started Cap Geek, and it was so revolutionary for folks like us in the media to easily get this information to kind of shape a lot of our conversations, and then it kind of took over to the fans. We often say, these guys are the fans just playing GM. Well, it seems like GMs are playing GM sometimes with the exact same material and tools.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes, depending on the way they look at things, sometimes maybe less tools than the average person.
I'm sure Peter Chiarelli's on the GM tool all the time. All the time, being like, what could I have done better? It's now there is Puckpedia, which I guess will become like the leader in this situation. You have to get used to the design and the layout. Cap Friendly was just laid out so nicely. So I mean, there are some other options out there, but that list of NHL teams are going to have to go to 100% for teams to have something like this. Like, how can you do your job? It's an interesting move, but I'm just curious how much they paid for it. I really want to know, like this is a multi-million-dollar deal to get Cap Friendly, or is it like the guy who runs, like whoever runs Cap Friendly is like, oh man, I can make $400,000 off this. I'm out. See you later. Like, I don't know. I'm very curious. Somebody's going to get that number because I got to know. I got to know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I would think it's got to be seven figures.
Has to be.
I think the fact that a team is coming to buy it from them, knowing what that means for the other teams, I mean, you could probably turn around and sell that service, if you will, to teams for X amount a year.
Yeah.
And then move forward. So they obviously put an offer down. And I think the two guys that were sort of running that site are also getting hired by the Caps too. So I'm not exactly sure what they're going to be doing.
Well, they're going to be they're just going to be continuing to update the website, but for the Capitals only. I mean, that's probably what it is. This is a good transition. Because I have always wanted Cap Friendly for the Canadian Football League. So we do have week 2 CFL lines that have now been posted. But it carries the conversation so well. Like going into CFL free agency, if we were like, okay, well, this team has this much cap space. Let's see what they can do with it. And this guy's got 2 years left. And I love the conversation. It would go on and make trades and shit. Like that would be amazing if we could get something like that.
We have no idea on any of that stuff, do we?
No, not really. I mean, I mean, no, we don't. I mean, you can kind of take a peek and try to gather some stuff up here and there if you want to sort it out on your own, but somebody just needs to put that together.
The entire league doesn't know.
Yeah.
And you really only have to be cap compliant until after the season. And I think within like $100,000 or something like that. So, I mean, it's very foggy. Hey, speaking of the CFL, are you doing the Labor Day Classic?
I am doing no, I'm not doing that this year. I'm doing Banjo Bowl still, but I'm on Touchdown Pacific. So I'm going to be out in Victoria for Touchdown Pacific, and then I'll be in Calgary for Labor Day.
Okay. Well, that is unfortunate, but we'll look forward to seeing you here in the Peg for Banjo Bowl. I just want to quickly mention for lock shoppers and WSTers in the Winnipeg region that are also cool bettors, while we get to the CFL lines, do not forget that if you are making any bets on the CFL of $10 or more, or heck, 2 $5 bets, screen cap your bet at Coolbet and then send it to contest@winnipegsportstalk.com. We're picking a qualifier every week of cool bettors. They will qualify and get a marble. And we will be giving away the trip on the Huss bus to the Labor Day Classic.
Ooh.
With a special marble race second week in August to come on down the bus with a great crew to and from, 2 nights hotel, tickets for the Labor Day Classic, a bunch of other great swag. So if you are already betting or you're thinking about getting into the CFL, and you do it at Coolbet, screen cap that contest at winnipegsportstalk.com. And we'll be qualifying people for the next number of weeks. And then hopefully bringing one of you lock shoppers along with me on the Huss bus to Regina.
The Huss bus is just amazing. I love that. Man, I wish I was there. I've done it the last few years, but with this Touchdown Pacific, they're taking me out to Victoria for that one. So, but I am looking forward to
cool,
yeah, it should be cool. My sisters live in Victoria too, so hopefully I can get them both out to the game.
Who's
but
BC playing in that game?
Ottawa, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think I should know, but I haven't dove into it yet. But yeah,
I'm not putting you on the spot to know every.
To be honest with you, I don't know which 2 games I'm doing next week. Like it's a blur. I know what I'm doing this week, and then I don't know. I'm in Winnipeg one of these weeks. 2 weeks.
Next Friday?
Yeah, next Friday.
Friday, Bombers BC.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm looking forward to that one.
Great one.
Yeah, that's actually a real good one. So yeah, looking forward to that. But
we'll see if those teams can be 1-1 as opposed to 0-2 when they meet in week 3.
We will get to our official picks for week 2 in the Canadian Football League a little bit later on. I will say this, it is good to be talking and betting football again, which is obviously a lot of fun. But the week 2 lines are posted over at coolbet.com and the CFL. Just some early thoughts on these, Huss. Have you seen the numbers yet?
I have.
Oh, okay, all right.
I've been kind of taking a look at them from last.
So let's just whip through these quickly. Winnipeg 6.5-point favorites on the road in Ottawa. The Elks are 5-point dogs at home against Montreal. The Lions are 9-point favorites at home against the 1-0 Calgary Stampeders with 50 Cent in the house. And then the Ticats are 1-point favorites at home against the Riders. Anything really jump off the page here for you, Huss?
Well, as someone that was at Princess Auto Stadium for the home opener, to see the Bombers favored by 6.5 on the road is a bit surprising. But again, this is a reputation line. We haven't seen Ottawa yet this year. It's their home opener. So, and of course, it's former Blue Bomber quarterback Drew Brown that's going to be slinging it for the Red Blacks. I was a little surprised that the number was as high as it is. I mean, I think this is going to be one of 2 things. It's going to be either another struggle. And of course, the Bombers blew that lead. That was the comeback game last year when they were in Ottawa. They haven't traditionally traveled well out east to Montreal, to Ottawa. I shouldn't say traditionally. There's been some times. I mean, it's tougher to play. You have a long trip, much like we saw with BC. But it's either a struggle or they completely flip the script and come in. I think that's less likely, though, with no Kenny Lawler. I mean, the offense didn't look good to begin with. You take away arguably one of the top few receivers in the entire league.
One of the most talented receivers in the league. Yeah,
players in the league. So for that one, it's an interesting line, and I'll be very interested to see what Pat has to say about where the money's coming on. I think people that have just there will be people that just blindly bet the Bombers because they're the Bombers, that maybe didn't see the last game or just gave them a straight up mulligan. And again, there's a lot of questions about Ottawa. Listen, Edmonton, I think this was 5.5 yesterday, actually, and I think it's now down to 5. I'm going to be that guy that probably gives the Elks the benefit of the doubt and goes back on the home team. Long trip from Montreal. And again, like, they did some good things in that game, but the Bombers were just so off. And when your offense does nothing, sooner or later, your defense is out there and going to get lit up. And that's exactly what happened. The 9 points for BC is a huge line.
That's a huge line.
Number.
Yeah.
Now, they have in the past had big time. What's the line total in this? 50.5. These two teams have had some classics and some high scoring games. I think BC will be much better after, blowing that lead. I do think they're the better team, but holy smokes, 9 is a lot. Like, when we make the picks, you may just have to take Calgary on principle for a divisional game for a team that just won and taken the 9 points. And then a fascinating game with the Riders and the Ticats. A 1-point spread, basically a pick 'em. And as I said, I didn't see a lot of Hamilton in that first game. Pretty impressed with what Saskatchewan did coming back the way they did against Edmonton. But, a game where they kind of got a few gifts and took advantage of it. But the thing that I'm most interested about Hamilton, did you see who they signed yesterday?
Oh,
Tua's kid brother.
Yeah, the little guy, the younger brother. Yeah.
I can't remember. Was Talia?
Talia or something like that? Yeah.
Anyways, little junior. And he was, incredibly productive in NCAA. Obviously, he didn't get an NFL look. So will be an interesting player to sort of keep tabs on to see whether he can come in. And Bo Levi, this is the final year of Bo, would you think?
I think it's probably the final year of Bo. I think they're going to transition to Taylor Powell, use Bo to help that a little bit.
Well, who knows? Maybe guys get hurt. You just never know what happens. I think Bo's eventually going to transition in with you.
I could see I could see him being in the booth one day.
Oh, absolutely. Either that or the panel or doing something like that. And by the way, how about Lapo doing the sideline?
I know we had our CFL conference call today, and he got a little bit of a shout out for doing the sideline on Sunday.
I'm giving him a shout out right now as well.
Yeah, that was good, man. I liked seeing
Shanetti's globetrotting with Canada's men's national team right now. He was out in France for the soccer game, and then he'll be heading down to Dacopa. So Lapo getting the stick on the sidelines. But what about you?
Well,
when you looked at this, was there a line or two that sort of stood out?
The 9 for the Stampeders. I get it. BC Lions at home opener, 50,000 people. Like, I understand that, but I also know that you can run on the BC Lions, apparently. And Dedrick Mills and this BJ Emmons that they got, more Dedrick Mills. Mills was great last week. I don't know if he got banged up along the way because they didn't use him as much in the fourth quarter as I thought they would. But I think if Calgary can run on BC here, the 9 is a pretty big. I would not be surprised if that's closer to 8 or 7.5 come kickoff there. And then the Riders, I do like the Riders as a dog, maybe to go out and win it in Hamilton. The one guy that the Riders didn't have last year, they lost him to injury earlier on, and they got him back this year, and he played in that first game, and he was all over the place against Edmonton. Roland Milligan. I think he's a halfback, and like last year, he only played 4 games. He had a couple of interceptions. And then he got hurt. And as much as they missed Trevor Harris last year, I think they missed this Milligan guy more. And he was all over the place on Saturday. So he's a game changer. I think he's one of the best defender, at least one of the best guys in the secondary in the entire league, but he's all over the bloody field. So if that guy's healthy, man, I had a lot of time for the Riders and what they might be able to do defensively. So I think I like the Riders as basically, like you said, a pick 'em in that one, and then we'll see where the lines move and start to pick in some of these picks on Thursday. You guys do a parlay last week, CFL parlay, Was it a same gamer for like the Thursday nighter?
You know what we did? This is like, do we really have to reminisce about this? So you and I went head to head on the Winnipeg-Montreal game. So we just didn't include that. And then we were both on Hamilton. We were both on Edmonton. And we were both on BC.
So we went over.
We just put them as the money line.
Oh, okay.
We just did the 3 teams on the money line. They didn't even, because like there were 2 like 1 point spreads, and then BC I think was 5. So we just put that to the money line, and actually it went from plus 374 to plus 4.25, I think, or plus 450. It's a good number. None of the teams came through and did it. So we're gonna need to figure it out this week and make up for a rough week 1. Hey. Did any of the other guys kind of pull off good weeks? Did anyone kind of surprise anyone with 3-1?
No, I don't think anybody was 3-1. I think the best we had was 2-2. Was Remo 2-2?
I'm not sure.
I think Remo might have been 2-2. But yeah, I mean, we'll do it again this week. We got a fun little thing going.
I want to give us the scoreboard on the.
Yeah, he mentioned it to me yesterday, but I can't remember. Hey, I have one quick question over here. Matt says, Huss, how much Diet Pepsi is in your house at any given time?
Well, it's funny you say that. Normally, I'll get a rack or 2 when I'm at Shoppers. Sometimes if I'm out from Shoppers, I will just go to Sev, and that's why you'll see these. You know, you get the 2 of these for whatever, $5.50. But a local guy from Pepsi got in touch with me.
Of course.
And I think I'm gonna have a delivery from the people of just some cases, and then we can
then it's on. Then it's on.
Then I won't have to worry about these trips to Shoppers.
Do you go to Shoppers to get your groceries, Huss? Is that where you get your groceries?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a pretty limited. The list isn't that long.
I love it. I love it.
I'm gonna say, listen, guys. You know, and single people will understand it. We go through the charade of shopping and buying all this stuff with the best of intentions. And then a week later, a bunch of the stuff is bad. You haven't even looked at it. You've still ordered Skip 4 times. And you just realize that it's a losing battle. So I just waved the white flag. And for the most part, I'm going to be using some delivery app, or I'm out. I grabbed something on the way home. I'm not lying to myself anymore and showing up at Safeway and dropping $150. Although when I do go through, I wanted to do this a couple times just for some self-depreciating humor. I did go to Safeway about, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, just as it was getting nice out. And my order, Dusty, I mean, you would have been in tears. 2 cases of Diet Pepsi, about 6 frozen pizzas. I definitely had 2 boxes of drumsticks.
Yes.
There was definitely some chips in there. I love butter tarts, so I got some of those. Like, that might have been the closest thing to actual.
Oh, God, man. I love it.
Real people food. I know I give you a hard time for only eating chicken fingers and fries, but trust me, I'm living in a large glass mansion right now when we have these conversations about food.
What's coming up at Winnipeg Sports Talk, buddy?
We got a fun one. Actually, the handsome one, Tommy G, is going to jump on with us.
Nice.
And talk about the game last night in the series. We'll talk a little bit more hockey, get into the Bombers, and more stories with Mike McIntyre. And then actually Winnipeg triathlete Tyler Mizlachuk coming on, getting ready for Paris. So he's going to join us as well. That's all coming up at the top of the hour.
We could definitely be roommates, Huss. I'm just going to say it right now. We could definitely be roommates. That would be great. Just throw in some Pop-Tarts and some chocolate milk, and I'm in. That's it. That's the end of the story.
Listen, I'd love to add that to the rotation.
Yeah, that'd be good. All right, buddy. Okay, we'll see you later, man. There you go. That is Huss. See ya. That's Huss from Winnipeg Sports Talk. Oh, what a beauty, man. He's a national treasure. Put that dude in bubble wrap. All right, hey, let's do our keyword for the $100,000 hole-in-one contest. Presented by Golftown. Swing big this Father's Day and find dad or yourself the perfect gift at Golftown. Whether his dad's been a seasoned pro, or maybe he's just starting out Head to Golf Town. Get him a gift card, right? You don't know what to get somebody. Get him a gift card. He can go in and pick his own little treat. Probably end up getting a few gift cards. Go in and get something bigger. You're going to love it. Callaway, TaylorMade, Puma, Nike, Garmin, and much more. All your favorite golf brands. This Father's Day, give the gift of golf. Visit them in-store or at golftown.com for more details. How it works, you text in the keyword that I'm about to give you right now. Zacticum will draw one of your names. You will go into a draw with 3 other people to go into the actual contest to have a swing for $100,000, courtesy Edmonton Sports Talk and Golf Town. Here we go. Your keyword today is sand. Text sand right now. SAND. Text sand to 780-218-9999. 780-218-9999. And you will have a 25% chance at having a swing at $100,000 if you're chosen today. All right. The keyword is sand. Text sand to 780-218-9999. 780-218-9999. The keyword is sand. 780-218-9999. Good luck, everyone. One of you will be contacted by Zach to come at some point between now and probably 1 o'clock. Another keyword for the $100,000 hole-in-one with Golf Town coming up on Two Guys and a Goalie, presented by GS Construction. That is on the way right away with myself and Gager today. That is going to do it for the Lock Shop. Thank you very much for being here today. Good luck tonight, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Huge U.S. Open episode. And, of course, we'll take a look at where the odds are at tomorrow as we work our way towards that Thursday Game 3 between the Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. Stick around for Two Guys. It's coming up. If you're listening on TuneIn or iHeart or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com, about 4 minutes maybe of a Whale and the Wolf, and then Two Guys and a Goalie right here on EST. Tell your friends, and we'll continue the conversation coming up here.